come here and talk about it instead of somewhere else is, you know, a little bit of closure for yourself. Like, you know, you really, for the family, for yourself, you just really want to, you know, to just bury it and not, lack of better words, you know, let the man rest and just, you know, if you can expand upon that a little bit, a little closure for yourself.
Yes, absolutely. I did want to mention one thing
Sure.
first regarding because people have been talking online about, you know, if I was his next of kin, why
Okay.
wasn't I there and all that stuff? Because I basically got cut off, you know?
Right.
So, as I have talked about, I felt like Jane basically cut me off and like she had basically had it out for me from day one. Um, and so I tried everything so she basically tried everything in her power to ruin my reputation and cut me off completely. Um, so when Rich was hospitalized, I wasn't even informed or contacted. So when I finally heard it happened, I called many different hospitals to try to find where he was because I wanted to go to Florida. I was in Texas at the time, but I was denied access. And then, Jane had the audacity to say I didn't care or that I didn't show up, which I thought was ridiculous. And I know that people were talking like, hey, why weren't you there? And, stuff like that. So I just wanted to get that out there.
No, sure. And you know what? Thanks for reminding me because I think it's important to understand. I don't think a lot of people understood it because Rich did such a good job of maintaining the presence that he was the owner. But in realistic sense, we know that they had they had Jane, who was a part owner, and they had another gentleman who was basically the money man, the guy behind it, that was financing a lot of it. And so Rich was basically a sponsored athlete, paid really well. And so the reason why I bring that up is a lot of people, say that you were a gold digger, that you were just out there searching for the money. When in realistic sense, he wasn't in ownership of 5% anymore. So really, what would he have that would Sarah would really want at the end besides just some closure for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see it, and I'm not taking sides. I'm just kind of being a referee in the sense that it's different when you're an owner and you got a lot of stake in the business and there's going to be money coming in eventually. But we all know that that wasn't the case. Rich was not. He may have been in the beginning, but after time went on, Jane took over ownership, and then I'm assuming that's how she had gotten the power of attorney.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, and then being married has to be kind of tough because if you've got a power of attorney and someone doing business, it's like you're dealing with a manager on top of, being with Rich. So it's you're kind of dancing with two people.
Right, right.
So
Uh,
for the
yeah, so
for
you were
the yeah,
asking,
for the people out
were
there
you?
saying that you're a gold digger, like, does that? I mean, how does that make you feel? I mean, knowing that you would knowing what you knew behind the scenes, it just wouldn't make any sense.
No, I mean, it makes zero sense. Like, ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous.
And guys, just so you know, and I want to touch upon this, I know 5% has made a big mark and a big name in the industry, but to be super successful in the industry like a Redcon One and such, you've got to put a lot of money out to make a lot of money. Me owning Chaos Nutrition, I can tell you in numerous months, I've gone to the point where I've put money into the business. I don't take any money out of the business. If I did, some months it would just fail. It's just companies. It's really hard to maneuver in this environment and other environments in the past. And so just by owning a supplement company doesn't necessarily make you rich. And so just so you have an idea, even if he passed as an owner, residuals really aren't what you think they are. There's a lot of money going out and sometimes not a lot of money coming in. On their scale, maybe a little bit more. But in the premature times, there just wasn't that there. I think I told Sarah this, and in the very early beginnings in the infancy of 5%, I was kind of really outselling out here in Arizona, and I was told to cease and desist because I was doing so well. So in a nice way, and so I just wanted people to know that it wasn't like billions were on the table here and that Sarah had so much to gain. But there was a website, real quick, while we're on the subject, that was put out there and really to demonize you. I mean, they put your your history out there. They put the videos out there, and it's still alive and well. Um, I mean, that just had to tear you apart to know that that's out there and it's going to stay there for infinity. As we try to get closure, that's where I'm kind of leading into. I mean, how does that, sit with you that it's out there and that the people are still maliciously attacking you?
Well, it's absolutely heartbreaking, to be honest. And like I said, Jane started this whole thing, and I saw because she posted it on her Facebook. I still have all the screenshots and all that stuff.
Right?
Because I haven't forgotten what she has done.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, she ruined my reputation. When I didn't do anything. So I don't wish this on anyone. I
Right.
don't. I don't even wish this on my worst enemy,
And
to be honest.
Sarah, if you had any thoughts on how you would do things differently, have you ever thought about that over the past couple of years as to like what would you have done differently if you could have? I mean, we probably always say we do everything differently, but in your own words, anything you do differently that you wish you would have done, or hindsight?
Well, first of all, regarding being rich, I would have just made sure that we stayed on a good path
Yeah.
because that would have made things so much better. And second of all, our marriage was too crowded with Jane as the third person in it. So it's not normal for the ex-wife to have her fingers in everything, including his financials. So I do believe she had a huge impact on our relationship not working out
Right.
by her putting seeds of doubt in Rich's mind by telling him I was using him and that I didn't love him, which couldn't be further from the truth. She was just afraid she wouldn't get anything, and look at her now. She took everything.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for those things, I know our marriage would have been very successful because we truly loved each other.
And I appreciate you expanding on that. I mean, it's one thing too. It's just so Jane knows, because of course a lot of people are going to demonize me that we're Facebook friends, et cetera, et cetera. I want it to be known that Jane has the floor just as much as anyone to come out and talk about things if she wanted to. She's a very very strong person, very business person, so she may not want to, but. Everyone should have an opinion on this. If they have an opinion, they should have an option to voice their opinion. Is what I'm getting at. But as of now, she's kind of just stayed in her own lane and hasn't really spoken much at all about it. Just keeps running 5%. It looks like they're doing okay. But I can tell in your voice and over the course of a little bit of time that I've gotten to talk to you, there's a lot of pain, and I hope that subsides, and I hope this video kind of helps put people. A lot of people are probably going to say, "Well, we didn't hear enough," or this, that, and the other. But the truth is, it's your take, and I wanted you to set the record straight.
Yeah.
So any
And
yeah.
didn't you also regarding the questions something about regarding the family and the closure and everything?
Right. Yeah, that's what I was going to get to in the closing thoughts. Is as far as
Yeah.
why you're such a proponent, why you still carry on the way you do, and for the family's sake, for your sake, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So all I've wanted is for Rich's family to have closure and to know what happened to him, and that justice is served. That's why I've done everything in my power to help them out.
Right.
Jane and Elle haven't helped out at all. And when the investigation started, they both lawyered up. Well, I didn't lawyer up. And I provided them with all the paperwork they needed and answered any questions they had. So from day one, I've been willing to help with whatever I can for his family to be able to get to the bottom of everything.
Yeah.
And I just want them to get closure and for Rich to be able to rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
And that all of the speculation and lies online, just that's a total madness, so people have no idea how things were or what happened because they weren't there. So people need to just stop putting stuff out there that isn't true unless you have proof. You can't really say much, and it's caused a lot of heartache and difficult times for the family, to have to listen to all this. So it's just nonsense what people are saying online. It's been so many years, it's crazy.
Yeah, and yeah, getting into that, which we weren't kind of planning on, but we did want to put some closure there. Having been an investigator myself, where I was a private investigator for years, I have that investigative mindset, and there's just certain things that you check off. As me being a military cop as well, My past kind of put me in this position to ask these questions. And when we're always investigating a crime or a particular situation where someone had passed and it just looks weird or odd or just out of place, there's questions that we ask as investigators, and some of them are real simple. And I think you're on board with me here because I heard you touch on it. Like, how do you lose the blood sample? How do you lose the urine sample? How many minutes did it take for paramedics to get to the home? We later found out it was 11 minutes. Where's the toxicology? A lot of these things, and I know I've worked for hospitals, they don't get lost, and that's why I have a hard time with the state investigation, because you don't lose these records. They're kept in the medical records office. It's called HIMSS. It's the Human Medical Records, and they stay there for sometimes eternity. I mean, some of these cases that don't get solved stay there for a long time. When you're talking about homicides and murders and things like that, these hospitals they have to keep these files. So it really kind of blew my mind when I heard some of these things, and I'm like, it just doesn't add up. And I think that's probably why there's such a mystique surrounding his death, is because in the early hours and minutes after his death, we heard, well, he fell and he bumped his head. And coming from a logical standpoint, you just don't bump your head and go into a coma. Is it possible? Yes, but not not normal for a 47-year-old man to just be dyeing his hair and listening to rock and roll music and pass out. You know what I mean? There's something that led to it, if you catch my drift there. And that's a lot of the questions that we had. And then when we finally asked more questions, it later came out that he was snorting pre-workout. And then I had to bounce it off of the people that I knew. And Big Mark was one of the people that I knew. And he goes, Rob, I'll tell you at a later date what it was. And when he told me, he had asked me not to tell anyone. And I said, of course, like, your word is gold. You're my brother. It stays with me for life. And I think I told you this a couple weeks ago. I felt like him and Rich had visited me one day, and it was really strong. It was a strong feeling after the RX Muscle video. And I felt like he had said, hey, Rob, let the world know that it was China White, that he had got a bad batch. And, and that is what happened. So when I hear other people talk about it was a pre-workout called Concrete, and then the investigation not finding anything in his bloodstream that led up to the heart attack, is just, why was it so hidden? Why was there so many lies? And I think, so just to clarify, and I think for the viewers at home, that's why there's such a mystique, and it won't stop. It's kind of like the Elvis death, right? It's like, wow, there's so much mystery behind it, and this is what people like. I really don't think it'll ever rest, Sarah. That's the unfortunate thing, and because he was larger than life, I think it'll carry on for a lot more time, unfortunately. So, my goal was to let you have your side of the story, but like I said,
Right.
when I have all these questions, I know it's got to be going through your mind too. Like, gosh, I wish I could have done more.
Right. I mean, like I said, the whole thing is really weird.
Yeah.
Because when you had done that video about the China White or White China, whatever it's called, I mean, I even had to look it up. I had no idea what it was.
Right.
I was like, what are you talking about?
Right.
So, like I said, it was talked about that, his blood work was clean when he came into the hospital,
Right.
and then it went missing.
Right.
The whole thing is just really weird. Obviously, we
Yeah.
don't know truly what went on.
Right.
But like you mentioned, stuff like that doesn't just go missing.
Correct.
I do think that's paid off or something like that. I don't know. It's the whole thing is very weird.
And that's and that's why I think it just doesn't go away. Now, to be fair to Big Mark, because he was my brother. He had helped me build Chaos Nutrition at a different level, and we knew each other's families. We talked every day, and we talked about things that most people don't talk about. Only family kind of talks that way. And the one thing I never asked him where he got that information, but I did know that Big Mark did a lot of extra things with Rich, and he knew more than most people knew. I think there's other people out there that know just as much as Mark or a little bit more, but Big Mark stayed really close to Rich even in the final days. I think there are a few other people as well, but I never asked him where he got that information. But I will tell you, if Big Mark told you something in confidence and reiterated it, his word was gold. And so for the people out there that would say, oh, well, he had something to say about it and maybe he just planted the information, because I know Rich's mom had said, or relatives, whoever in the YouTube said, well, how do you know this? And, sometimes you don't have the concrete, evidence in front of you, but some people's word is just absolute gold. And, in this case, I have to believe
I
Big
just
Mark.
think what his family is referring to is just because his samples were clean and everything
True.
when he came into the hospital, so I don't know, it's, we just don't know. It's just the whole thing is really weird. And like I said, I was not there during his final times. I don't know the situation, what he was doing or anything like that,
Right.
or how this all happened.
Right.
Like I said, it's I truly hope we can get some answers, because we're all like big question mark, and obviously his family wants to know, what happened to him.
Right.
Yeah,
I think a lot of us that followed him and supported him, he was kind of. I'll tell you. You remember at the expos, we would go into these expos, and I just want to paint a good light at the end of the video and not drag it on. But I just want you to hear my take on it, as well as Sarah's. But we would go into these expos and just standing behind him and going through the expos and the love that this guy got, the 5-hour wait lines. When we were in Ohio, we ran out of supplements. And he goes, gosh, what are we going to sell? And he goes, I guess I'm here to sign autographs. And he didn't mind. He just stood there for 5-6 hours and took very little breaks. And there's a lot of people out there that I can tell you that still love him and have questions like why, who, when, why, and how. And, they forget about it a little bit. But then when these things come up, it's like it just rips that old scab open. And here we are again. So that's not one thing I wanted to do. I wanted to paint it in a good light. But, it's there. A lot of people still love him and have those questions that you and I have.
right.
Yeah. So, well, any closing thoughts, Sarah? The floor is yours.
Yes. I just want people, to stop all this hate and stop spreading lies about this whole thing. People are assuming this and that, like they were there. And, like I said before, if you don't have proof, then there's no need to say anything. This truly affects Rich's family, and they don't deserve it during this difficult time. So, we should just let him rest in peace. And, when justice is served, you'll know about it. So let's remember Rich for the amazing man he was, the huge impact he had on us all, how much he changed the fitness industry, and how influential he was, all the lives he helped, and how much he improved people's lives. How positive he was and how much he did for us all. There will never be anyone like him, and he will live in our hearts forever. And I also want to add and tell everyone that Rich truly loved his fans. He loved meeting y'all, and thank you for being his fans. He lived for this, and I know he's watching over us. So we love you, Rich. Right, babe? God damn it.
That's awesome. Well, I do appreciate it. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate you guys for tuning in.
Absolutely.
And what a wonderful way to finish it. I'll leave it at that. And I will say, I hope this clarified some things. Much love to Rich's family. There's no hate on my end. I hope for closure. I hope I seek the same things you seek. I as an investigative mindset, like I said, I think closure would be awesome. Will we ever get it? Maybe not. But it's the best we can hope for. And like Sarah had said, think about the things that he had changed so many lives for the better, even though maybe Sarah wasn't perfect during that time and Rich wasn't perfect. Let's think about a time in our past when we weren't perfect and we were a little off and we had some struggles. Should that demonize us for the rest of our lives, or were we able to have an opportunity to overcome those obstacles and be better people? I want you to ask yourself that as you bestow your judgment on people. Just understand, have you always been in your best light? And I would often come to say that 99.9% of folks out there can tell you about a time in their life when things weren't so great and they made some bad decisions. And that's my take on it with Sarah. That's why I wanted to give her the opportunity. We've kind of become quasi friends, and she befriended me and followed me, and I think everyone deserves that second take, that second look. And like I said, we aren't proud of some of the things we did, but if we can move forward and do things in a positive light, like you heard in her closing statement, I mean, that's beautiful, and I think that's what it's all about. So thanks for tuning in. Thank you again, Sarah.
Yeah.
And till next time, guys, I'm Big Rob, and I'm out.